tubers, two bets, and of course my ever-widening circle of crazy people. This month, May, marks my 5th year anniversary here in the Philippines. And so I thought it would be remiss if I didn't put down a video for myself, a little reflection video. And so I figured we'll just go ahead and do just that. And starting off, I would look at year number 1. Prior to coming out here, I felt I had done plenty of due diligence. I had watched a lot of YouTuber guys, and I had done a lot of reading and research. And after settling on where I wanted to go, the one thing that did do for me, and I'm forever grateful for, watching all the YouTube and whatnot, was that I set up an awful lot of the mechanical stuff necessary to operate over here. I set that up over in the States. So for example, how to transfer the money, unlocking phones, what to bring with me, what to just leave behind, and I found that to be extremely useful. However, the expectations that I had from watching all the YouTube channels and whatnot did not match my reality. And so I found that it was more expensive for me to live over here than it was for everybody else. And so I guess it was just a variance in taste, or a variance in what my level of happiness was going to be. But the first year was getting accustomed to currency exchanges, transportation issues, food, people, traffic, getting lost. I could go on and on and on and on. And not one of them was what I would call a deal breaker. They were challenges, and they were a little stressful. And I had thought that I had left all my stress back in America. And so I discovered that wasn't necessarily the case the first year. But there were a few days where I was like scratching my head and feeling a little high blood, if you will. But I got through it. And that being said, I don't think I would change a thing. Because by making the mistakes, again, like I said, misdemeanors, once bit, twice shy. I didn't go back in and make them over and over and over again, as I've observed some people out here do. And not just here, but back home too. It's just personalities, I suppose. So the first year was by far the most challenging. It was also some of the most rewarding days of my life, the first 12 months. I had the initial honeymoon period. I had the I don't know if this is going to work period. And then the last few months was, yeah, I'm okay with this, and I accept this. And so I think I'll just move forward and continue the journey. And so that took me into year number 2. Year number 2 was very fulfilling and a lot of fun. Again, I put so much of the knucklehead, nuanced stuff behind me. I had learned how to operate the banking system. I had learned how to operate the phone system. And believe it, that wasn't all that easy. I had learned to drive on 2 wheels instead of 4. I had grown accustomed to the traffic. The sights, the sounds, the smells were definitely not as impactful on me as they were originally. I mean, to just see all these dogs wandering around, and the loudness, the noise level was something that to this day I can't really get used to, but it's something that I was able to adjust and grow accustomed to. So all of that was kind of in my rearview mirror, and I felt like I was really starting to move forward. And I was making a lot of acquaintances, and I'm making a lot of friends, both locals and foreigners, both males and females, and I was having fun. I had also come to a point on the second year where I got my budget under control. That was one of the things that had kind of spun out the first year. I had done some unnecessary expenditures, and I was feeling a little guilty and a little bad about that. And one of my goals before I came out here was to save some money. And I had never been able, even though I knew how to do it and I knew what the philosophy was behind it, um, hell, it was my job title back in the day, but I just couldn't pull it off. And so out here, I have a finite amount of money that comes in as opposed to a fluctuating paycheck. So in America, I had a fluctuating paycheck. Some would be big, some would be small. So I never could really just say, okay, I've got this. Well, for the first time in my life, I had a Social Security check, and that was it. That was my income. There wasn't going to be any more. There weren't going to be any bonuses. Wasn't going to be any vacation pay. There wasn't going to be anything that increased. There wasn't going to be any more tax returns or refunds. That was over with. So at the time, the second year, and this was one of the biggest things that I think happened to me back then because it set the stage for future years. I think back then my Social Security check was about $1,800. And in my mind, I set my limit. Initially, I set it at $1,000, which was unrealistic. Again, I was not able to pull it off like the other vloggers had. So I set mine at $1,500, and I was perfectly content and happy with that number. In fact, that number is still pretty relevant today. It's gone up a couple $100, but that's about it. But what I accomplished that second year on the budget was one of the first times in my life, I was able to consistently put aside between $200 and sometimes almost always $300, and every now and then $400 and $500 into my emergency fund and/or / savings account. And to me, that was a really big deal. Now, a couple of $100 a month may not sound like a lot to you. At the time, and even now, it doesn't sound like a lot to me, just because of the numbers I was accustomed to in the States. But if anything else, it was just a sense of discipline and a sense of pride, and also some additional security, that if I stayed the course and stayed small and didn't get wrapped up in a bunch of physical stuff, things and objects, I would be just fine. And that was mission accomplished. So for all of the second year, I was able to do just that. And I think that my total savings that second year was approximately $4,000. That was accumulated. If you take 300 and some odd dollars, sometimes $400 times 12, that's about what it added up to. And again, that's not a huge sum of money, but let's face it, it was $4,000 more than I had the year before in my savings account. And that's, to me, was quite the accomplishment. So I was very proud of that. I had managed to rein myself in and put myself on a budget, stay small, stay a minimalist, and accomplish that goal. I found that to be very satisfying. So I would call that the victory found in year number 2. I was also starting, as I entered into year number 3, I was starting to observe a lot of the people that were around me and how they were reacting to all this also. Some of them were just like me. They were adapting, they were accepting, and they were acclimating, and they were changing to fit into the society. I watched other guys rebuke that, if you will, and fight it, and think that because things were so, what's the word? It's not complex, but for example, what we might take 3 steps to accomplish back in the States, it might take 8 steps to accomplish out here. It's just not very time effective or cost effective. And you watch it and you scratch your head and you think, someone needs to move over so I can take charge, fix all this. Because I know better. And you let me run things for a while, we'll straighten all this out. Well, I had to drop that attitude because I didn't come over here to change the Philippines. I came over here for the Philippines to change me. But I've watched other guys hit points of frustration because they do want to change things and they're never going to. And so they never hit that level of acceptance. So that was something that was a big revelation to me. And I also learned to disengage myself from those types of people and gravitate much more towards those that were like-minded to myself as far as attitude, aptitude, and just generalized outlook. I wanted a more positive outlook. I didn't want a guy that thought he was going to come in and fix everything. I wanted a guy that was like me, that was willing to just kind of go with the flow. And it took a while, but slowly but surely, that circle of influence started to influence me. And as I spent more and more time around positive, forward-thinking human beings, I found that to have a real positive effect on just my general outlook on things, and also in a more forgiving, if you will, outlook on myself. So there are sometimes we come over here, I think, with the intention that, okay, we're going to leave all of our problems behind in whatever country that we're leaving. We're going to come over here and we're going to reinvent ourselves. Well, that's kind of a phony way of doing things, isn't it? So what I discovered was, as time marched on and I moved into year number 3, that I wasn't reinventing myself. I was actually beginning to discover myself. Every year that went by there was less stress, there was more positive influences, and I knew that back in the day, just being a man, I tended to stuff things down. You know, negative emotions, guilt, shame, anger, and all that other kind of stuff. And as I moved into year 3, not only was that stuff fading as a distant memory, it was no longer having any impact on me. It wasn't serving any purpose. It never did. So that was being released. And while that was being released, it opened up room for me to be able to accept myself for who I was and start to like myself again. And I wasn't going to reinvent myself. I was simply going to let myself come out. I was going to stop stuffing my personality, my sense of humor, my ideology, my opinions were actually coming to the surface. And it was very liberating that I was able to just kind of unpack all that stuff and discover who I really was and enjoy it and revel in it and be myself. I wasn't having to please anybody. I wasn't having to answer to anybody. I didn't have to show up for anybody. It was really a selfish thing that I just got to take care of me for a change. And in that process, I actually just started to discover who I was. And some of it was really, really good, and some of it wasn't that nice. And so that was an opportunity for me to take on some sort of self-evaluation and self-reflection, and hopefully make some positive changes on those things that just weren't so nice. Year number 3 was huge because 2 things happened. Number 1, due to circumstances beyond my control, I started a YouTube channel. Sorry. And I also met Baby May. And so Baby May and I, real quickly, so this video doesn't go on forever, we courted, if you want to use that word, for 5 or 6 months. And then we became the proverbial couple. Now, keep in mind, for almost 3 years there, I had been a single guy with the exception of the first initial girlfriend. And did I not date anybody? No. I dated girls. I saw women. But nothing that really got past the friend zone. Nothing that got serious. Nothing that evolved into anything. They were all cool people. I'm still friends with them, I hope, to this day. But May just seemed to bring something different to the party that I sensed. And I wanted to discover that too. And so when I met May, she was this kind of shy little wallflower, but for some reason, her and I just had some sort of weird connection, and that still exists to this day. And I had started the YouTube channel, and she refused to even get on it. And that was fine. I never forced her to. I just always said, hey, you want to be on my channel? And she'd say no. And I said, okay. And so I filly farted around with that. I did it as a creative outlet. I still use it as a creative outlet, something to do, something for fun. And over time, as May became more and more relaxed, one day, about 6 months into our relationship, I found her, she was just setting up a camera on the kitchen table, and she had the video camera going. And I said, what are you doing? And she said, I'm making a video. I said, of what? She said, cooking some food. I said, well, why are you videotaping yourself cooking food? She said, oh, it's for my new YouTube channel. So she had been really reticent about ever coming on my little show, but one day she just woke up and decided that she was going to make her own. And it was called Baby May's Cooking and Adventures. Turns out Baby May can't cook for shit. So the cooking part didn't last very long, but it evolved into what's now known as Today with Baby May. And what's interesting about that is that her transformation is almost a mirror image of mine. As we spent more and more time together, and Baby May got acclimated to me, a different lifestyle, she started to see different things. Hopefully, I was a little bit of an influence, introducing her to other things that were available in life. And she had been this walled-in woman that had the equivalent of a second grade education. At the age of 15, she had been shipped off to Manila to go to work. From 15 to the age of almost 30, with some breaks in between, she put 2 of her siblings through college and supported her family. And she did all of that on the equivalent of about $65 a month. That was her salary for over 10 years, working as a housekeeper, caretaker in Manila for an old lady. I mentioned earlier how liberating and how proud and how happy I was about me saving the $300, $400, $500 a month, and how much discipline and whatnot. And I was kind of patting myself on the back because I'd managed to stay under the budget. If you really want to get impressed, I'll share with you a story. 6 or 7 months into my relationship with May, she was much more comfortable with me. I understood where she had come from. I knew what she had been gone through, how hard she had worked. Now she was kind of taking a break with me. And one day she showed me her passbook savings book that I didn't know she had. And long story short, I won't give you all the sordid details, but one day I looked inside of it. And you know what May had done? She had made $80 a month approximately, maybe less. She had supplemented the school for her sister and her brother. She had worked 6 days a week, and over the 12 or 13 years, she saved $600 on top of that. Now you think, oh, $600. I'd like to see you or me do that. And that's not a challenge. It's just, I don't mean to be snarky, but I think about it and I go, wow. You know, it makes my little savings account look ridiculous in how much fortitude and inner strength and discipline that had to take for her to put away. And I looked at the deposits. The deposits were 25 pesos, 112 pesos, 17 pesos, whatever she had left over at the end of the month from her check, after paying for the schooling and her own little personal needs, stuff that she would get one day a week to go to the mall and pick up some shampoo or whatever. she would save it. And so I thought, you know what? She did a much better job of saving than I did. And her stock, in my mind, just went through the roof. So that was kind of the story about year number 3, the genesis of 2 YouTube channels and the genesis of the relationship between myself and May. Year 4 and 5 was pretty much dominated by COVID. So did we get a chance to island hop and start to benefit from the fruits of our labors and our savings and all that? No. What we did do was we were quarantined a lot. We were restricted for travel an awful lot. We had to go through a million hoops just to move down the street. So guess what? We stayed home a lot. And we were in the same house, apartment, if you will, for years. A year and a half solid. And the good news is that she had a YouTube channel, I had a YouTube channel, and so we started to try to help each other with the YouTube channels. I don't think that we've had but 1 or 2 blowout fights in the 3 years that we've been together. And not even, they weren't like knockdown, drag out stuff, but ones that were a little more major than others. And very few minor fights. So, is it perfect? No. Does it work all the time? No. But is it the best relationship that I've ever had? Absolutely. So I'll just leave it at that. So that's years 4 and 5. I found that May has been able, like me, to stay within her means. Even though her means have changed, she still has the same attitude that she had when she worked in Manila. That hasn't changed. She still saves every dime that she possibly can. When she shops, she doesn't walk into Robinson's and pay retail. She goes to Okai Okai, which is like used clothing, things like that. When she goes to eat, she doesn't order a mango shake and dessert like I've observed others do. Service water or a hot water, that's it. And she'll just get a simple dish when we go out to eat, for the most part. She too has, and I think those that have watched us for the last couple of years, those that have been with us from the start, if you will, have watched her transform from kind of a wallflower, shy girl into a much more outgoing, optimistic, funny, and really actually very smart woman, grown woman. Very mature, and yet young at heart. Morals are intact, but very uplifting, lighthearted spirit. And everyone that I've met this last few weeks as expats have come in have said, you know what, May, number 1, is more beautiful in person than she is on camera. And number 2, I can really feel the vibe off of her. I get that from guys all the time. And they're just saying, you know what, she is the real deal. And they're really impressed by her, and so am I. So I think that over the last 5 years and the last 3 years for May, her and I collectively have been able to peel away the layers of the onion of ourselves and not discover what's inside, but reveal what's inside of ourselves. Let that flourish, let that actually take shape, and not have it stuffed down by exterior influences. Become more self-reliant, been more, honest with ourselves. And so that's my review of my last 5 years. What the next 5 years will bring, I don't have a clue. But I hope that when it goes, that maybe you'll come along for the ride. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video.